I had always considered myself a rational and level-headed person. I scoffed at ghost stories, found horror movies laughable, and was never one to jump at shadows. But that fateful night on the desolate highway would test the boundaries of my skepticism and reveal the darkness that could shroud even the most logical mind. It all began on a Friday evening. I was returning home from a business trip, my mind still reeling from hours of monotony spent in mind-numbing meetings. The prospect of a long drive at night was far from appealing, but the sooner I got home, the sooner I could bury myself in my warm, welcoming bed. The digital clock on the dashboard read 11:47 p.m. as I merged onto the highway. The road was shrouded in darkness, and a thick fog had settled in, obscuring my vision to mere feet ahead. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. My headlights pierced the fog with an eerie glow, revealing stretches of empty road and an occasional faded road sign that only added to the eerie atmosphere. Despite my rational mind, my nerves were on edge. The road seemed endless, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The fog took on a sinister quality, swirling and dancing like specters in the moonlight, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend. I tried to shake off my unease and turned up the radio to fill the silence. A haunting tune played, but the eerie lyrics sent shivers down my spine. Goosebumps prickled on my arms as the singer's voice seemed to speak directly to my soul. I reached for the radio controls to change the station, but my fingers fumbled, and the eerie song continued to play, like it was taunting me. As the minutes ticked away, my unease grew. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was watching me, just beyond the fog. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror, but all I could see were taillights disappearing into the distance. Suddenly, a flash of movement in the fog caught my attention. It was a figure, a shadowy silhouette, lurking at the edge of the road. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached, and my foot instinctively lifted off the gas pedal. The figure was cloaked in darkness, a shapeless form that seemed to defy the laws of physics, moving without reason or rhyme. My rational mind screamed that it was a trick of the fog, a product of my overactive imagination. But when the figure extended a gnarled hand toward my car, I couldn't deny its reality. Panic coursed through my veins, and I slammed on the brakes, bringing my car to an abrupt halt. I sat there, frozen in terror, as the figure came into view. It was a woman, her tattered clothes and matted hair clinging to her emaciated form. Her eyes, hollow and black as the abyss, bore into mine. I could feel her despair, her need, as if it seeped through the very fabric of my being. Before I could react, the woman whispered, her voice like the sigh of the wind through a graveyard. "Please, help me." I couldn't move. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and disbelief. Who was this woman? Why was she here, on this desolate highway, in the dead of night? As if in answer to my unspoken question, she spoke again. "They took everything from me. I need to find my way home." It was then that I saw the tears, the inky black tears that streamed down her pale face, leaving a trail of darkness in their wake. I should have driven away, left this nightmarish apparition behind, but a strange compulsion gripped me. With trembling hands, I unlocked the passenger side door, and the woman climbed into the car. Her presence was suffocating, her cold, damp clothes brushing against me. I could feel her anguish like a weight on my chest, and her dark eyes held mine, drawing me into an abyss of sorrow. As I drove, she told me her story. She had been driving on this very highway, returning home from a visit to her parents' grave. A sudden fog had descended, and her car had skidded off the road, sending her tumbling into a ditch. When she awoke, she was alone, and the fog had taken on a malevolent life of its own, trapping her in this nightmarish world. I listened, transfixed by her tale, my skepticism a distant memory. We drove for what felt like hours, the fog unrelenting, the world outside reduced to a realm of shadows and phantoms. The woman's story was heartbreaking, and I couldn't turn her away. We were bound together by a shared sense of dread. As the night wore on, we approached an old, decrepit motel, its neon sign flickering like a dying firefly. The woman urged me to stop, to let her rest for a while. I hesitated, but ultimately pulled into the empty parking lot. The motel was a haunting sight, with shattered windows and peeling paint. but it seemed like our only refuge in this nightmarish fog. We entered the lobby, the air heavy with the stench of decay. The reception desk was abandoned, but a single flickering candle cast eerie shadows on the walls. The woman and I exchanged uneasy glances, but there was no turning back now. As we climbed the creaking stairs to our room, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The walls seemed to whisper with malevolent intent, and the air grew colder with each step. When we reached our room, we found it in shambles, as if some malevolent force had torn it apart. My heart raced, and I turned to the woman, but she was gone. Panic surged through me as I searched the room, calling out her name in desperation. There was no sign of her, no trace that she had ever been there. I stumbled back into the hallway, my mind a whirlwind of terror. The motel seemed to close in around me, the shadows coming to life with sinister intent. I ran, my footsteps echoing through the empty corridors as I fled the cursed place. Back in my car, I drove through the fog, the minutes stretching into hours. The woman's voice still echoed in my mind, her black tears staining my soul. I couldn't escape the feeling that I had crossed a threshold into a world of nightmares, where the rational mind could no longer provide solace. As the first light of dawn broke through the fog, the highway stretched before me, empty and desolate. The horrors of the night had receded, but the memory of that woman and the malevolent motel would haunt me forever. I had ventured into the darkness, and in that nightmarish world, the line between reality and the supernatural had blurred beyond recognition.